Breaking tonight, ABC News suspends Brian Ross, its award-winning investigative journalist, over serious error in his Trump-Flynn report. Hello and welcome to Justice. I'm Jeanine Pirro. Thanks for being with us and for making Justice #1 again last Saturday. A bombshell just a short time ago from ABC News. Chief investigative correspondent Brian Ross suspended for 4 weeks without pay. This after the veteran journalist reported Friday that then candidate Donald Trump directed Michael Flynn, to contact Russians during the election campaign. ABC News later in the day clarified that it was not during the election campaign, but instead during the transition after the election. I'll have reaction to this developing story from Governor Mike Huckabee as well as my political panel. But first, my opening statement. How much is your child's life worth on the open market? How about on the open political market? Kate Steinle's family found out this week in San Francisco nothing. Absolutely nothing. The agenda of the lawless left was satisfied when a jury acquitted Jose Inez Garcia Zarate of all homicide charges, murder and involuntary manslaughter. And the sanctuary zealots of San Francisco are still patting themselves on the back. It's unfortunate that Kate Steinle, a beautiful 32-year-old young woman, simply walking along a pier on a sunny day with her dad, was gunned down by an illegal 7-time convicted felon, legally deported 5 times, that she had to leave this world in her father's arms, begging him to help her. She had the right, as an American citizen, to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. She had the right to be protected by her government. Instead, Zarate, and not God, decided when she would die. Instead, San Francisco decided his criminal rights were more important than her safety. Kate never wanted to be a part of a national debate or at the center of a law enforcement dilemma. So how did this happen? It was in March of 2015 that Zarate had just finished serving 4 years for illegal re-entry into the United States after having been deported 5 times. Conditions of release that he not commit any additional crimes and not possess any firearm, both of which he did. Upon his release, the Federal Bureau of Prisons sent him to San Francisco to face additional charges, a city they knew was sanctuary for illegal criminal aliens. And despite ICE's request for them to detain him for deportation, San Francisco released him into the community without notifying the feds. After the shooting, Zarate, the dirtbag, admitted to police that he fired a weapon he found wrapped in a T-shirt, saying he was just aiming at a seal, in which case he would legally be guilty of felony murder or at the very least involuntary manslaughter. But he also told police that he stepped on the gun accidentally. The defense, however, at the trial said something totally different, that he found the gun wrapped in a T-shirt and fired it accidentally when he picked it up. The jury was told nothing of his criminal record, his illegal status, or his repeated violations of our laws, 14 times the way I count it, before the murder. And so he sat at that trial, blanketed in the presumption of innocence and cloaked with all the due process that our Constitution provides, not to mention food, housing, medical care, lawyers, translators, and investigators that you paid for. 32-year-old innocent victim Kate Steinle, cloaked in a very different kind of blanket, 6 feet underground, with no voice and no rights. No appearance by Kate other than in cold, sterile autopsy photos. There's a reason it's called the criminal justice system and not the victim justice system. It's all about the criminal. That the jury even acquitted Zarate of involuntary manslaughter is not only a moral outrage, it's a legal one. Involuntary manslaughter occurs when one acts with criminal negligence and causes the death of another. Picking up a gun wrapped in a T-shirt, and the unfortunate truth in all of these murder cases is that we only get the defendant's version since the victim has been silenced by death, is classic reckless behavior that creates a high risk of bodily injury or death. Significant is the fact that the jury in deliberations asked to see the gun, a 6 Sauer P239, to assess how difficult it would be to have it accidentally go off. Folks, the trigger pull is central to this killing. Judge Samuel Feng, however, denied the request. If you know anything about a 6 Sauer, you know that it has a difficult trigger pull requiring between 6 and 10 pounds. It is drop safe, which is the reason that most elite military and government units purchase this weapon. This double-action pull is a favorite of Navy SEALs. It's a gun designed to not go off by accident. Folks, let me give it to you straight. This was not a verdict based on truth and justice and facts, but on leftist rejection of law and order agenda of this nation. Now, I have spent more than 3 decades prosecuting crimes and sitting on the bench. And although the defense denied this had anything to do with immigration, they crowed that it was a vindication for immigrants.
Nothing about Mr. Garcia Zarate's ethnicity, nothing about his immigration status, nothing about the fact that he is born in Mexico had any relevance as to what happened on July 1st, 2015. I believe today is a vindication for the rights of immigrants.
They contradict themselves. And then the defense proceeds to unmask their own hate and prejudice against our president and vice president.
Let me just remind them that they are themselves under investigation by a special prosecutor in Washington, D.C., and they may themselves soon avail themselves of the presumption of innocence and beyond a reasonable doubt standard.
And with all the criticism and outrage and the hashtags boycott San Francisco, the Bay City actually digs its heels in, reaffirming its sanctuary city status, and the state of California trumpets its state sanctuary status. The only sanctuary, though, is for the criminal illegal. So what to do? Number one, since sanctuary cities and states are created by elected politicians, they need to be voted out of office. Number two, build the wall. I showed you on horseback how open and porous the border is, which explains how a dirtbag like this would be able to cross 6 times after being deported. And if there's any problem with getting that wall built, do what you have to do to get it done. If necessary, attach DACA to it. Those born in this country and who swear to abide by our laws are quite different from these illegal criminals. Let me be clear, this is about illegals who are criminals. Number three, the federal government and Justice Department must do everything it can to deprive these cities, counties, and states of any law enforcement monies. Do not give them grant money, period. Number four, if you're a local or state cop, you have an obligation to protect the innocent, follow the truth, be true to your oath, and arrest the criminal. But if you're working in a sanctuary jurisdiction being directed by some left-wing liberal to instead protect the illegal criminals, directed to not share information with your federal law enforcement brothers and sisters, directed to not honor a federal detainer, well, then you've got a decision to make. And this is a tough one for you, and you can't figure out what your sworn obligation is, then as a cop, you need to get the hell out of law enforcement. Number five, you must notify ICE as soon as you can of the release of the criminal alien for whom there is a want. And I don't care what you have to do to get that done. Do it quietly. Do it anonymously. Do it behind closed doors, underground, through a special hotline, email, or carrier pigeon. Just do it. Americans have the right to know when they're in danger, since these sanctuary bozos treat illegal criminals different than American criminals. Maybe law-abiding states ought to clear out their prisons and send their criminals to the sanctuary states. Since they're already open to taking other countries' criminals, the least they can do is take American ones. I spent my life on the battleground where the fight between good and evil unfolds every day. This is about the violence visited upon innocent victims. It's about good and evil. This is about protecting Americans and not forcing them to reside with criminals in their midst. Take a look at these faces. No families should ever have to suffer like these families, like Kate Steinle's families, like countless American families, because of the murderous acts of criminal, illegal aliens. And that's my open. Tell me what you think on my Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. #Judge Jeanine.